For the first time ever, I am thrilled to say we have an official sponsor for the Dirt Talk podcast, and that's Ariat. I've worn Ariat boots on every job site I've visited over the years, traveling in them across 5 continents. More importantly, I have yet to find a single project where working folks, unlike me, are not wearing Ariat boots and workwear in every condition imaginable. And there's really good reason for that, and that's because it's phenomenal stuff. And the more I've learned about Ariat and the company, the more I've loved their brand. So with this, Ariat is offering any Dirt Talk listener 10% off their next Ariat order at ariat.com/dirttalk. That's 10% off boots, jeans, and workwear at ariat.com/dirttalk or at the link in this episode's description. With that, let's get to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a Monday edition of Dirt Talk. Today, we're going to be answering some questions that some of you have submitted. If you have questions for future episodes, you can send them to dirttalk@buildwit.com. We would love to hear from you. I get all of these questions submitted by individuals, either over our email or Instagram or LinkedIn. So thank you to all who have sent questions in the past. It is hugely helpful. And with that, question number 1 is, what was the biggest hurdle to starting in construction? And I would say the biggest hurdle for me personally, starting in construction, was getting started in construction. And what I mean by that is I didn't have family in the industry. I didn't grow up around the industry. I was starting with nothing from a way-in perspective. A lot of people, they stumble into this world, I've found. They've been around it since childhood. They've got a dad in it, a brother in it, an uncle in it, a grandpa in it, somebody in it. And that's typically how they make their way in. But I didn't have that. And I think this is what a lot of people are struggling with today. On one side of the coin, we've got all these companies saying, I can't find young people. And then on the other side of the coin, we've got all these young people saying, I can't find companies that will hire me. And it's hard to figure out a way into the construction industry at face value, but it's not that hard to figure out a way in. What I did, I've told the story. The company in my neighborhood, I Googled their name. I found the company website. I looked on the About Us page to figure out who owned the company. Rich Pearson, he started it. Cool. Good information. I found the phone number. I called the office. I asked whoever, when someone picked up, I said, hey, my name's Aaron Witt. I'm a student at Arcadia High School. I'm a senior. I've been watching this construction project in the Arcadia neighborhood, and I want to talk to Rich Pearson about it, and I want to learn more about construction. Can I meet with Rich? And whoever had answered the phone connected me with Rich. We agreed upon a time to go down there, and I went down to his office after high school one afternoon, drove down to Tempe. I met in his office. And that's how I got my way in. I think a lot of younger people, they don't even know where to start. And so I would just start by researching the companies in your area. There's a few different types of construction, but if you want to go into construction with heavy equipment, you would look up heavy construction company. And I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, so I would search, let me see here, I'm going to search it right now on my phone, heavy construction company. All right, so I searched heavy construction company, Nashville, Tennessee, because that's where I'm at. And right here, I've got Civil, I've got Rogers Group, I've got Jones Brothers, I've got Rosso. So yeah, those are the top civil construction companies, and there's more as I scroll down. There's more. But those are the top civil construction companies in Nashville. And so I would research what companies are in your area, and then I would start looking around on their websites for information. Now, I think this is where a lot of people get caught up. They say, well, they're not hiring on their website, or I sent in an application on their website, I never heard back. Yes, if you have no experience, if you were somebody like me, if I had applied to work at Pearson Construction Corporation, I'd sent in my application, I'd followed the instructions, I did everything correctly, I probably would have not got a job. I probably would have not gotten a call. I probably would have been asking the same thing. But instead, I wanted to put my name out there. I wanted to make sure they knew who I was. I've asked so many construction company owners, hey, if a young person came into your office today and asked for a job and said they were willing to work hard, would you hire them? Every one of them had said, absolutely. You are not entitled to a job. If you want a great job at a great company in a great industry, you have to go make it happen. And so, can you call the office? Can you find one of their leaders on LinkedIn and message them? Can you walk into their office and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. Here's a letter on why I would be good to work here. What can you do from a creative standpoint to get you noticed? Because if you can do that, you will probably get your way in. And if you can get your way in, then the next step is, okay, I'm in the door, I'm showing up on the job site for the first time. What was the hardest thing for me then? Well, it was my ignorance. My ignorance was then now the biggest barrier ahead of me, my biggest challenge. I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to properly use a shovel. I didn't know what traffic control was and why it was important. I didn't know how to work around traffic, live traffic. I didn't know how to get in and out of a trench, put a gasket on a piece of pipe, start a saw, use a ratchet strap. I didn't know how to do any of that, which is terrifying. Showing up to a job site not knowing a single thing. But what could I do? Well, one, I could show up on time every day. I could be consistent. That's easy to do. Okay, cool. I showed up on time every day. Two, I could be willing to learn. I could be willing to help. I could jump in and help out when I thought I could be helpful. Okay. All right, cool. I could work hard. I could do my best. Three, I could ask questions, and I could be curious, and I could genuinely want to learn. And then if I'm genuinely curious, people are then willing to invest in me. And then I was able to build my career based on that first summer, based on those first few months of construction experience. So I would say one biggest barrier was just getting into the industry, which is it is simple, but it's hard. And so you have to find your way in somewhere and then just work it from there. Just work as hard as you can. And I'll say all of that because I was in a non-union environment. If you're in a union environment, figure out what the local operators union is in your area and figure out how to get an apprenticeship. That's probably the best way to do it. Or work with a company to get you lined up with the union. That works as well. And then once you're in, no matter union, non-union, where you are, this doesn't matter. Show up on time, be curious, work hard. Your future is your responsibility. If you want it, go out and get it. The bar is very low, and stepping over that bar, it'll give you just so much opportunity. The next question: what was the biggest hurdle when starting BuildWit? Which is also good. Might have been submitted by the same person. The biggest hurdle when starting BuildWit. I would say that I had two issues. One, my first issue that I needed to figure out was access. I was working within an industry, construction, mining, the dirt world, as we call it now. that did not want me, that did not want my pictures, that did not want social media, so on and so forth. And so I had to spend a lot of time working on finding the right people, finding the right companies that would allow me access to their operations. And then I would use that access to then build my reputation, build the brand, build the trust in BuildWit and me as an individual amongst the rest of the folks in the industry, and then just grow it from there. And it was wildly frustrating because there were so many places that I couldn't even touch. Basic operations that I couldn't even touch because someone was telling me no. But I could have kicked and screamed about it. That wouldn't have done me any good. So instead, I worked with those people and those companies, and it's really down to individuals. I worked with those individuals at those right companies that would give me the access, and then I grew it from there. So Keaton Turner with Turner Mining Group, Dylan Stevens with Rosso, Tim Kramer with LB3. Those are the first that I guess come to mind. There's others. I had initial shot with Shanna at Granite Rock. I can go down the list, but again, just like I was talking about with starting in construction, I just needed to find a few places that I could get in, and then I could over deliver within a few of those, within those few places, go above and beyond, and use those as my springboard to get to that next level, which is exactly what I did. And then the next major hurdle, I would say, within the first year of business was money. I could not get a loan from a bank. I couldn't qualify for anything. I had a significant savings because I'd worked all through college and I had invested money, and I like to think some of it was because of me, but most of it wasn't because of me. It was just because of the market at the time. I had made quite a bit of money while I was in college, and I had scholarships, so I was able to graduate in a really good place. And I've talked at length about the money side of things. I can get into it at another time if it's helpful. But I had money, so that's what I used to initially run the business and live off of. I wasn't paying myself for the first few years. I was using that money to just live, and then to help grow the business as needed. I need a computer, I need a camera, I need a drone, and I would buy certain things, and then I would need to buy a plane ticket, and I need to fly out somewhere, so on and so forth. And then I needed some help over here with web design, so you hire a designer, and I need help over here with video, so you hire a contract videographer, and my expenses started to grow. And so I started to need outside capital to help me grow, because with a growing business, you have more expenses. You have your expenses today that are growing, and then you're getting that money in the door, but sometimes it's 30 days later, sometimes it's 60 days later, sometimes it's 90 days later, and there's this chasm in between when you get the money, or when the money goes out versus when the money goes in. And it's hard to know how to manage that until you just start in business. That's what's called cash flow, money in, money out. And because as I was starting out, I was 23 years old with no assets. I didn't have enough for the banks to lend anything to me. And all the banks said, we love small business, but no, you don't have a house you can borrow against, or you don't have this substantial credit score. Cool. Yeah. Kick rocks. Oh, you don't have 3 years of business history. It's like, how am I supposed to go get the money if I can't have some money to then go get the money? How do you expect me to get the assets that I need to then qualify to borrow if I can't have money to grow the business in the first place? It didn't make any sense to me. And so the first few years, the most money I was able to qualify for. The most, and this was after I pushed a long time, I got a $12,500 line of credit, which today is completely worthless. And even then, it wasn't helpful because that's just so small and such a little help. And so because the banks were out, because traditional lending was out, we did two things. One, we used American Express, which was very helpful. You couldn't carry a balance, as I learned. I tried to carry a balance and then they shut my card off. So then I learned you can't carry a balance. But you could float things 30 days or so, maybe a little bit more. And so you put it on the card today and then you don't pay your bill until midway through next month, which was very valuable, very helpful. And then we started offering small discounts, like 5% on marketing service contracts that we would bill up front. And so for the next 6 months of services, we would add that up. We would give them a 5% discount. And then some companies would write us a check for the foreseeable future, which was huge because we would get that cash today. And then we could use that cash to grow the business as we did the work. So that's how we did things. I would say those were the two biggest challenges starting out. One, access, which I still struggle with today. It's mind-boggling that I struggle with it today, but we're making really good progress and I'm very grateful for the access we have now. And then two, cash, which I think is the bane of any small business's existence. Next question is a degree worth it? Now, I am not a believer in most degrees. I think the vast majority of degrees now are general business degrees and general humanities degrees, which I don't think are very valuable. I get graduate school, maybe an MBA, future state, but I struggle to see the value, or at least the value promised, in most of those degrees nowadays. That said, I still see substantial value in degrees, especially with construction. And I'm just able to speak from my experience. If I went to business school at Arizona State, I saw a lot of people go to business school. Business school, people in business school might tell you it's hard. All you have to do is show up to class. If you show up to class, you'll pass business school just fine. It's very, very, very easy. And I made the mistake thinking that all college is just hard. No, it's not. It really depends on what degree you get. Some degrees are way harder than other degrees. Business is very simple. So would I be where I am today if I had just gotten a business degree? No, I don't think I would be. I don't even think I'd be even close, honestly. Even if I was in construction, even if I would have went into construction after school, I still don't even think I'd be within a whisker of where I am today. And that's because the degree I got was directly related to the field I wanted to get into. So construction, I got an engineering degree, which applies very nicely to infrastructure. That was the path I chose. It was a construction engineering program, which is almost identical to civil engineering with just a few construction classes is how I explain it to people. I got an engineering degree and yes, it was applicable, but more importantly, it taught me how to solve very hard problems because that's all I did for 4 years. I struggled through engineering school. It was so hard. I failed so many exams. I failed classes. I failed homework assignments. All I did was just fail for 4 years. And you would go work as hard as you ever have. I would study so hard for some of these exams. Honestly, so hard because I was so scared of failing, driven by the fear of really failing this class, I would study, and then I'd go get a 43% on the exam, which was just crushing. But then you didn't have time to mourn because next week you had this exam, or within the next 3 weeks we had another exam in that class. There just wasn't time. You just had to keep moving. And some of these problems, once you get to your later classes, you've got like a concrete structures class. The test is an hour and it's one problem. It's design a beam for XYZ. And the test is 5 pages of equations that you write out. And everybody, you could have 30 kids in the class, 30 different answers. All 30 of them can be right because it's within these parameters that you have to design your beam to be within. So you can't copy somebody. Everybody will probably have a different answer. It's tough. And so I got a ton of value out of learning how to solve for hard problems and how to fail. And I would have not gotten that outside of school. And then I will also say, a lot of people, they talk up going right into the workforce as by far the best thing to do. And in a lot of ways, I think it is. But when you're 18, you don't know what the hell you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing now, but when you're 18, you really don't know what you're doing. You're a kid. You don't know how the real world works. You don't know what you want to do. You don't know very much. And if you go into the workforce, you are put on a prescribed path. But college offers the ability for exploration if you do it right. And so had I spent those 4 years just working, I probably would have been with one company. And I worked for 5 companies. But had I worked for 5 companies not being a student, I wouldn't look very good. Why are you hopping around so much? But because I was a student, it was never held against me because I was just exploring. And I wouldn't have had those opportunities with those companies had I not been a student, because they're looking for students for these roles. And it gave me a lot of flexibility and allowed me to go learn so much about the construction industry in a very, very short amount of time. In just 4 years, I was able to learn so much. That's then been the springboard again for my whole career, for where I am today. Had I just gone into the workforce, no chance would I have had that degree of experience at 22 years old. So it's funny, people say, well, you have more experience at 22. I would argue I got far more experience by not joining the workforce at 18. And I was far better off at 22 than I would have been had I just worked for 4 years, because I would have not had the degree of freedom that I had as a student to explore the industry, to go visit different job sites after school, to go meet different people and talk to different people. Because as a student, you're not anybody's competitor. You're just a kid. They want to invest in you. You're the next generation. So you can go anywhere. You can ask any questions. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to work in multiple different states. I wouldn't have had any of that. I wouldn't have had any of that had I not been a student. So I think it's so easy for people to just say, oh, college is stupid. And I want to jump on that bandwagon because I think a lot of it is very stupid. A lot of it is very stupid, especially spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for an undergraduate degree. You don't have to do that no matter where you are. You don't have to do that. Don't do that. There's a wrong way to do it, but I'm so grateful that I did it, because there's no way I would be here without the degree and without the schooling that I had. So that's my perspective on, is a degree worth it? In some cases, it's not worth it. In other cases, it is worth it. In my case, it was totally worth it. Would I do it again? I don't know if I would do engineering school again. I did it once. I wouldn't want to do it again. If I did it again, I would go get a construction management degree. And I think it would set me up for huge success future state, no matter what I wanted to do. You can go get a degree and be an operator. You can go be a degree and become the owner of a company. It gives you flexibility to go do whatever you want to do. And I think there's a lot of value in that. Final question. What's the best state to operate in, pay/weather-wise? People ask me where they should work a lot. And I always tell them, start with where you want to live. Because anywhere people live, people need to build things. There's jobs available there. And so, yeah, you'll have more opportunities in a growing market like Florida, like Charlotte, Raleigh, like Nashville, Tennessee, Phoenix, Arizona, Vegas, Austin, Dallas. You'll have more opportunity in those growing markets. So if you really want a growing market, cool. I would go to one of those areas that if you look at where population is moving right now in the United States, you can just look up, greatest population gain by state in Arizona, look up a chart and then go find those major cities. But there's construction work anywhere. So I would start with where you want to live and then I would work backwards from there. If you really just want to pick a great state to work in, one, from a consistency standpoint, I would say it's really hard to beat the Sun Belt, especially Arizona, Southern California, Nevada, even Colorado Front Range, anywhere where it's dry all year round, for the most part, is a really good place to be. So yes, Phoenix gets hot in the summer, but you work year round. In other parts of the country, you don't work year round, or even worse, it's really inconsistent because of rain. When rain shows up Monday, and then you're rained out Tuesday, Wednesday, you're not working, you're not getting paid. There's some companies that try to even out that pay with rain days, which I think is a great thing, but it's hard to do. And so it makes your income somewhat inconsistent. Whereas in Arizona or Vegas, very rarely is there ever a rain day, ever a delay because of weather. So you can at least count on your ability to work year round. Even if it's hot, you can still get the job done. And I didn't realize things were seasonal in the industry until I moved outside of Arizona. And even a place like Texas with mild weather, Texas gets hammered by rain and it has really rough, soft material that's really hard to work with when it's wet. And so there's still a lot of rain days in a place like Texas. And so if you wanted to just work year round, I would focus on a place that's warm and that doesn't have a ton of rain. If you're moving dirt, if you're laying pipe, if you're paving roads, you'll see the work be a lot more consistent in places like that. But I would start just first and foremost with where you want to live, because maybe you do want the winter off. Cool. A lot of people like having the winter off. Awesome. Then, and your family's from Minnesota. Cool. Then go to Minnesota, live where you want to live, and then go find a great company in that area, like a Vite. Cool. I'm going to go to Minnesota. A Vite, a McCrossin, an Ames. I can list the companies in each state. They're not hard to find. But I would recommend go live where you want to live and then find a construction job from there. And then make yourself so valuable to that construction company that if things do get tight in that market, they're not going to be thinking about letting you go. They're not going to be thinking about that. But if you're going to a growing market, again, a Tennessee, North Carolina, a South Carolina, a Indiana, a Florida, Texas, and Arizona, Nevada, even parts of California, people say, oh, everybody's moving out. Yeah, I mean, somewhat, but they're moving within California. So look at Sacramento, the place is blowing up. Idaho, there's certain states that have seen huge inflows of people over the past few years post-COVID. It's completely reshaped the map of the United States. And if you go to those markets, there is more work than you know what to do with, because there's housing shortages. And then with more people coming in, now there's a greater demand for infrastructure. So now you're having to upgrade your water, your wastewater, your storm systems, your roads, your bridges, everything that has to be upgraded. And that should be job security for a long time into the future. So that is what I would recommend as far as what the best place to work is. So that concludes this brief Q&A episode. Thanks again for everybody submitting questions. Submit them to dirttalk@buildwit.com or just DM me on Instagram. I see every DM. I'll see it on there. I appreciate you listening. If you listen on iTunes, drop us a review. I would love to see more 5-star reviews or 1-star reviews. If you think this sucks and you want us to know it, write us a review. It really helps grow the program. And we'll see you on the next one. Stay dirty, everybody.